Let me paint a picture and see if it sounds familiar. You've got a couple, both have solid careers. She works in marketing, earns around 60K a year. He works in IT, makes about 70K. Together, they bring in roughly 130K a year. On paper, they're doing great. Top slice of earners. They should feel comfortable. They should be saving, investing, traveling sometimes, feeling stable. But that's not their reality. They're stressed about money. Most months, their account balance gets uncomfortably low before payday. Their emergency savings might cover a month or two if they're lucky. When the car broke down recently, it went straight onto a credit card. They both work full-time, sometimes more. They're tired all the time. Weekdays blur together. They barely see each other except late evenings when both are drained. And here's the part that messes with your head. They did everything they were told to do. Got degrees, built careers, got married, bought a house in a good school area, combined finances, followed the plan step by step. So why does it still feel like they're barely staying afloat? Why does a household making six figures feel fragile? If you've ever looked at your income and thought, we make too much money to feel this broke, this is probably going to hit home. I spend a lot of time thinking about why two earners today often feel worse off than single-income families did decades ago. And if you and your partner are both working hard but still wondering where the money goes, you're not alone. We've all been told that two incomes automatically equals a better life. It sounds logical. If one person making 50K can support a family, then two people making 50K should be way ahead, right? Same lifestyle, plus extra money for savings and investing. That's the theory. But reality played out very differently. There's actually a name for this pattern. It's called the two-income trap. The term was popularized by Elizabeth Warren back when she was studying bankruptcy cases long before she was in politics. She and her research team looked at thousands of families who had filed for bankruptcy. What they found surprised a lot of people. Two incomes didn't make families safer financially. In many cases, it made them more exposed to risk. Dual-income families were often more likely to end up in serious financial trouble than single-income families. That sounds backwards, but stay with me. To understand why, we need to rewind a bit. Back around 1970, fewer married women worked outside the home compared to today. Many middle-class families ran on one main income. And here's the part most people miss. That single income often covered the basics comfortably. Housing usually took a smaller share of income. Public schools were often solid no matter where you lived. Healthcare cost less. One car was often enough. Families could save a little and still afford small trips or extras sometimes. And they had something very important, a backup option. If the main earner lost their job, the other parent could step into the workforce. Not ideal, but it was there. That second potential income acted like a safety net. Now, jump to today. Two working parents is normal. In many families, both incomes are required just to maintain basic living standards. Yes, incomes are higher than decades ago when you adjust for inflation, but expenses moved way faster. Home prices, healthcare costs, childcare, college tuition, all of these grew much faster than wages. So what happened to that second income? It got absorbed into basic living costs. Housing got more expensive because families could now bid using two incomes. Childcare became a major cost because both parents were working. Healthcare climbed. Education exploded. The extra money didn't turn into extra security. It turned into higher baseline expenses. Now let's zoom in on what happens to a second income in real life. Imagine one partner makes 70K and the other makes 50K. That extra 50K sounds huge, but first comes taxes. Because of how tax brackets work, that extra income often gets taxed at higher rates. Suddenly, that 50K might feel more like low 30s in take-home pay. Then, if you have kids, childcare can easily eat 10K to 20K per child per year depending on where you live. Then commuting costs, gas, maintenance, parking, maybe even a second car. That can easily be several thousand a year. Then there's something people rarely talk about, time costs. When both adults are exhausted, households spend more on convenience, more takeout, more delivery, more paid services for cleaning or yard work, more shortcuts just to survive the week. By the time you add everything up, that second income might add far less to your real financial progress than you expected. Sometimes barely anything, sometimes negative. And here's the mental trap. You make decisions based on gross income, not what's left after all these costs. You qualify for bigger loans, bigger mortgages, bigger car payments, bigger commitments. Everything works fine as long as both paychecks keep coming without interruption. But life doesn't work like that. Job loss, illness, burnout, family emergencies, caring for aging parents, kids needing more support. Real life throws curveballs. If your entire financial structure depends on 2 full-time incomes with zero gap, you have very little room for error. That's why so many households feel like one emergency away from serious trouble. Studies have shown a huge percentage of adults struggle to cover even a few $100s in unexpected expenses without borrowing, and many of them are not low earners. They're middle-income, dual-earner families. The biggest driver is usually not luxury spending. It's core middle-class costs: housing, healthcare, childcare, education. So what can you actually do about it? The biggest shift is how you think about the second income. Most households treat both incomes as permanent and guaranteed. Both incomes are required to just maintain basic living standards. Another approach is to build your core life so one income can carry the essentials: housing, food, utilities, insurance, basic transportation. Then, the second income becomes power, not survival. It can go towards savings, investing, debt payoff, or improving life intentionally instead of just maintaining it. That might mean buying a smaller house than the bank says you can afford, driving simpler cars, living in a good enough area instead of chasing the absolute best zip code. It's not flashy, but it builds something very valuable: flexibility. If you do this consistently for several years, something interesting happens. Investments start generating their own returns, savings grows into real security, choices open up. You're less trapped by needing every paycheck. You can handle shocks better. You can make life decisions based on what's best for your family, not just what keeps the bills paid. At the end of the day, this isn't really about having one income or two incomes. It's about margin, breathing room, options. Previous generations often had less income but more flexibility. Many modern households have higher income but less room for error. And here's the key idea. High income is not the same as financial security. If every dollar is already spoken for before it arrives, the number on your paycheck doesn't matter as much as you think. The households that usually end up strongest long-term aren't always the ones who earn the most. They're the ones who keep control of their expenses and protect their ability to adapt when life changes. Because you can work your way out of a lot of problems, but it's very hard to escape a system you don't realize you're inside. Now that you see the pattern, what you do next is up to you.